perform the operation by hand, then use a calculator to check your work. So in this first problem, we have negative 4/9, and that's being multiplied to negative 15/16. And notice that we know it's multiplication because that negative 4/9 is jammed up right next to those parentheses. That's that thing called juxtaposition. Whenever we see things rammed up right next to each other with no other operation sign, we know it's multiplication. So I'm just putting a little multiplication dot there just to remind us of that. Because we're multiplying two negatives, a negative times a negative will always give us a positive. So we can go ahead and write that positive sign down here. Okay? Now our sign is taken care of, so now all we have to do is work with multiplying the fractions. So we'll have 4/9 times 15/16. Remember, we already took care of the sign, so now it's just working with the fractions. So when we do our multiplication, rather than multiplying straight across and then having these big numbers that we need to simplify, let's just do the simplifying before we do our multiplication. So look for common factors here on the diagonals. So here with 4 and 16, the greatest common factor is 4. So we're going to write this as 4 times 1, and we're going to write 16 as 4 times 4. We're going to rewrite each of those numbers in their factored form, showing it as a multiplication problem, and then I can just cross out that common factor of 4. With the 9 and the 15, the common factor is 3, so here we can do 3 times 3, and for 15 we can do 3 times 5, and again that's going to allow us to see that common factor of 3 that we're just going to cancel out. Now to do the multiplying, we just multiply whatever's left. 1 times 5 gives me 5 for my new numerator, and in my denominator 3 times 4 is 12. So my final answer is positive 5/12, which typically we would just write as 5/12 for our final answer. Now in our second problem, want to be careful, we're changing our operation here. Now we're going to be dealing with dividing. We have a positive 5/6 divided by a negative 10/9. Well, a positive divided by a negative, just like with integers, when I'm doing the division with fractions, if one is positive and one is negative, my final answer is going to be negative. That's always going to be true. A positive divided by a negative will always give us a negative. Now that I've got the sign taken care of, I can just deal with the fractions. 5/6 divided by 10/9. Well, remember how we divide fractions? We multiply by the reciprocal. So 5/6 times, remember the reciprocal, we flip the fractions over, the second fraction, times 9/10. And now let's do the same thing in terms of looking for our common factors. So with 5 and 10, my common factor is going to be 5. 5 times 2 and 5 times 1. My 5s will cancel out. With my 6 and 9, 3 is the greatest common factor. 3 times 2 and 3 times 3, and then we can see those 3's cancel out. And now I just multiply whatever's left. 1 times 3 gives me 3 for my numerator, and in my denominator I have 2 times 4 to give me 4 for my denominator. So my final answer is negative 3/4. Remember, we had put that negative down at the beginning so that way we were sure not to lose our sign. So let's check our answers using the calculator. So here's our calculator. Let me clear it out. Our first problem we had was negative 4/9 times negative 15/16. So negative, remember using our negative sign here, 4/9. So we're going to need to use the fraction key right here. 4, fraction key 9. And this one we were doing multiplication of negative 15/16. So there's the 15. Fraction key tells it I'm going to the denominator now with the 16. And when I press enter, there's my positive 5/12. Now for the second one, remember we were doing division on that one, so let's clear this out. We had 5/6, so 5, fraction key, 6. Now we're doing division with negative 10/9. And notice we don't have to worry about the reciprocal when we put it in the calculator. The calculator will take care of that work for us. When we press enter, there's the negative 3/4 that we were expecting to see.